Hi folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time you are listening to me. I'm not in a good position to speak because all my teeth were taken away. I'm going to get a new one. So if my pronunciation is not clear, bear with me. The reason why I want to speak to all of you is the American system is failing. Failing, maybe Biden administration's days are numbered, maybe at the most another 5 more months. The reason I am so mad is I am entitled to a social security pension from the US government, which I was getting for over 20 years. I'm 84 now. I started getting at the age of 65. All of a sudden, it stopped. I didn't know the reason why. I wrote to the Chennai embassy of the Indian consulate, where we do not have an ambassador at this time. So matters are handled by a Skelton office, and I got a letter saying that from the American Citizen Service that they can't handle my pension claims. I should contact the respective agencies. And what I found out was I had filled a form which was sent to the federal benefit units in Philippines, Manila. And the first reason was I didn't prove that I am alive. So there is a form I filled saying that I am alive. I didn't get the form to begin with, but the form they sent me, I sent it back to them. And my pension for the month of March in the amount of $1,531, which comes to around 1,20,000 or more, which is perhaps more than the pension the justices in the Supreme Court in India getting it when they retire. But according to the American standard, it's a huge, it's a very, very small money, below poverty level. It means the average median income for people with a family is $70,000, if not more, depending upon the children they have or whatever it is. Now, I didn't get my pension, and I tried to find out the reason why I didn't get it, and the reason was in a letter sent to me, which had every information wrong. For example, there are 3 lines. I'm going to show you the document. You can be able to give you a close-up so you can look at it. It says on line 4, Trivandrum. Trivandrum is a name changed to Thiruvananthapuram, which was done 10 years ago. So people know it's Trivandrum. So the new name that should have been in the system is Thiruvananthapuram with 18 characters. And Kerala is spelled as K-E-R-E-L-A, Kerala. And the zip code is 695,008 shown here. I live in 007. And country, India, and they put 852. As you can see from the video, we are going to slow it down to make you understand. This was prepared by the Social Security Administration, Retirement Survivors and Disability Insurance, and we are going to show you a copy of that, which is coming from Office of the Central Operation, P.O. Box 17769, Baltimore, Maryland 21235-7769, USA, dated April 2, 2024. The reference number is shown as BNC 24T 2021 J91295A. Now the 852 is a country outside the United States. It's a Hong Kong. I don't live in Hong Kong. I don't know where Hong Kong is. I never been there. So there were so many mistakes. Okay, why this is going like this around the world is because we have totally incompetent people, both at the IRS, Internal Revenue Service, and also at the Department of Labor. Okay, as a result, I am suffering. I've got 3-4 employees helping me, and we have a domestic worker. My wife is 70, so we have financial need. You understand? So that's one issue. Now, they sent a check to me with the same wrong address. This check was for $1,147. You will see that check here, which we are going to show you. The same information here. India, country code 852, Kerala instead of Kerala, Thiruvananthapuram instead of Thiruvananthapuram. They showed Trivandrum. Okay. So this check, I presented it, despite the fact it is as wrong information. It came to me by mail by like a miracle. I went to the bank. Bank submitted it 3 or 4 weeks ago. So far, no money into my account. Okay, that's the way the whole bureaucracy functions. So we went to first I got another check, which I presented to another bank called Axis Bank, and when I filed a writ in the High Court, they immediately gave me credit. So that first check was okay. That was part of the pension which they sent to the wrong address. Now, why I am so mad is the whole system is in terrible chaos. There is nobody to run the system properly. Totally incompetent people who cannot even read English. Okay? I have a major case which many of you must have read by now. That case was against my former employer, ADEA. I was a legal analyst working in the Monopolies Division in Orlando, Florida, 1979, April 1 until 1981, when I was illegally, in violation of all the laws, dismissed by my manager without a cause. No employer in America can dismiss an employee in order to reduce their force without the due process of the law. That case is going on now 43 years. I'm going to tell you what happened to that case. You may have read it, you may have heard it. I'm going to repeat this. The Supreme Court of the United States understood what is going on. The US Supreme Court, the apex court in the United States, they called it SCOTUS. SCOTUS means Supreme Court of the United States of America, that's called the SCOTUS. SCOTUS decided the case in my favor. The order of the court said, in case number in re Talakkottur, that's the name of the caption of the case, 16-9624. That's the order of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court cited a frivolous case filed by somebody else that has got nothing to do. So they were told my case may be frivolous. If you can't file a frivolous case, here is a discrimination based on national origin, color, gender, age, violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, and older workers' law. I was the only one singled out by AT&T out of 1,500 working on a case where the US Department of Justice was wanting to break up AT&T's monopoly. So they reached an agreement, the US Department of Justice and AT&T, and they offered all of us 3 years salary, what they called golden handshake. They offered everybody, but not to me. Again, discrimination. You have to understand this, folks. I want this to go round the globe, how human rights were violated by the biggest, most powerful corporation in America. That is AT&T. Okay? AT&T at that time had 22 children. They are called subsidiaries or the Bell System companies. So the US Department broke them up, they settled. I was fired in violation of all the laws. You're going to see where I was fired. I was invited to attend a meeting in which I was offered $45,000 to quit the job. And they directed me to bring my wife then, Cicely. And when I refused to take it, I was summarily, without a just cause, notice or warning, fired in a hotel called the Disney World Royal Plaza Hotel. We are going to show you the hotel where I was invited. I was fired. The record will, the video, all the things will show I was fired. This company, I call the sucker company, AT&T, they deployed various tactics. First, they argued I quit the job. At that time, I had 4 children, 3 girls who were born in England. My son who is born in Michigan. He is currently a doctor. My other children are all grown up. They are all in different fields. My eldest daughter is a nurse working in Orlando, Florida. My second daughter, she is a budding actress in Hollywood. She seems to have taken, actor in several movies. I don't know. She sent a list. I didn't have a chance to even watch them. And my third is another daughter. Third is my son, who was born in Michigan, and my youngest daughter, her name is Julia Bennett now. She was until recently the chairman of Bennett Aerospace. It's a top secret agency working for the US government, transporting arms and ammunition around the globe. But the firm was taken over recently, which I came to know only a few days ago. And so they gave her X amount of money. She's traveling around the globe, okay, enjoying life. So that's my family life. My family life was broken as a result of the barbaric treatment meted out to me by the sucker corporation AT&T. They deployed various tactics. You have to understand, somebody is fired in a hotel room. You see the hotel room, Royal Plaza Hotel, Disney World. They argued in the court, I quit the job. You understand, folks? A company claiming I quit the job when I had 7 mouths to feed. That includes 4 children, myself, my wife, and my father, who had just come to America to enjoy the American life. You understand? This company deployed every kind of fraud. First fraud was they attempted to buy my counsel. His name is Syriac D. Kaplan. I didn't know much about him. I heard about him because he had argued the case of the Indian Prime Minister then Morarji Desai, who was allegedly a spy working for the CIA. That is the allegation. He argued the case. I think it was settled or resolved due to politics. I'm not going to go to that case, I engaged this counsel. He came, he filed an amended complaint. I filed an original complaint. Once you filed an amended complaint, the previous complaint goes away. The amended complaint stands. Before I filed the complaint, I filed, as the law requires, a charge of discrimination based on national origin, color, gender, violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act and ADEA. My counsel amended the complaint after he was admitted to practice in the Orlando court by the then Judge John A. Reed. And for a period of time, the defendant AT&T attempted to buy my counsel. You have to understand. They first offered him a judicial position in Cook County, Chicago, which he declined. They called me when he was in the office. His wife once had gone to another room to Xerox. So he told me to pick up the phone. I picked up this from the Bar Council. I handed over to Mr. Carter. They tried to make him a judge. He said no. Then they also offered him some cases to handle on their behalf. Why this company has to chase my counsel? They know they have no case. You understand? He was later on murdered, my counsel, which I came to know maybe 5 years later. I didn't know because I was living in New York at that time and I had no time to watch TV going on around the country. I was even forced to drive a cab, a gypsy cab. You know the reason? This sucker company tried to blacklist me because I am going to get their ass. So they did everything. Everywhere I applied, the procedure in America is if you're going to work somewhere, they will ask you, how is this guy? So they will bad mouth and say, oh, he's no good, he's a fighter. The first place I applied for a job was the city of Miami. I had 98.6 score out of 100 in a competitive test. I applied for 7 different jobs. They won't take me. I sued them. I won the case. After the district judge, then Stanley Marcus of Miami at that time, denied my petition. I appealed to the 11th Circuit, they reversed, and City of Miami settled it for around, if I recall correctly, $18,000. We will show you the check. Okay? I don't fight every case. If I feel I am wronged by any party, doesn't matter who, I'll fight. I never give up. That was my standard when I was studying for law in Delhi, the Faculty of Law, Delhi University. I had written articles at that time. At that time, those days, there was no computer. I and 2 of my friends, one was a retired judge, Somachudan Nair, he died recently, maybe 5 years ago, and another one, K.J. Pavitran. They were my fellow classmates in the Faculty of Delhi University. So what I'm saying to you guys is, I'm a fighter, no doubt about it. If you give up your rights, who will help you? Okay, so this company, AT&T, did every fraud imaginable. Tried to bribe my counsel, as I told you, he was murdered. And the judge, the trial judge, John Reed, denied AT&T's motion to dismiss, citing a case law, Alexander versus Gardner, Denver, decided by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1974. We will give you the citation. And the holding in that case was an employer can obtain a release from an employee provided it was given by the employee freely, voluntarily, and knowingly. The question in this case was, did I resign the job? Or did I quit the job, or was I fired by this company. There is uncontroverted evidence I was fired in the invited presence of my wife. Okay, so defendants AT&A and Michigan Bell, where I was previously employed as a clerk to begin with, upon my arrival from London, England in the year 1973, they promoted me, they sent me to work as a secretary for a manager. He doesn't want me, he wants young girls. So after working for him for 5 days, he demoted me. I filed a EEO charge. EEOC found the employer guilty of sex discrimination, retaliation subsequently. So we had a lot of cases based on gender, national origin, color, age, and what else. Now, another thing. The employer lost in the courts. So they deployed another tactics. You have to understand what is going on in the courts. They tried to bribe the federal judge, John A. Reed Jr. So to bribe the judge, AT&T hired a woman who used to work for Judge Reed as his law clerk previously. Her name is Anne C. Conway. So under the scheme, this woman goes to the judge, to his home, he goes to her home, they are close friends, they are having an affair or whatever it is, that's their business. So it's a violation of the canons of ethics for a federal judge to conspire to defeat my rights. You understand? I reported him because the judge, I sent him a request for admissions. I sent him a questionnaire. As soon as he got it, he called me on the phone. I was at the time living in Yonkers, New York. He called me and he said, Mr. David, I will give you answers to your questionnaire, not in writing, but over the phone. I made a request to the judge. I would like to have them tape recorded. Finally, after consulting with whom he was sitting, maybe in his office or home, I don't know, he finally agreed. He admitted, amongst other things, he was a shareholder of AT&T. He had worked for Southern Bell Telephone Company, a then subsidiary of AT&T, as a lawyer prior to his becoming a judge. He had met this woman at her home and his home. So all violation of the canons of ethics. So I notified the FBI and also the Chief Justice Warren Burger. Warren Burger ordered him, Judge Reed, to recuse and resign from the bench. And he immediately resigned. He went to work for another law firm who were handling the relocation employee cases as a kickback. I did a lot of research. My research further showed at the time of the incident, President Ronald Reagan had taken office, and one Raymond J. Donovan, who is from a broken family with the 12 members, 6 boys and 6 girls. They had no means of survival. 12 people in the home, their parents died when they were young. He went to become a Catholic priest. He went to seminary in somewhere in, I can't remember the place now offhand, we have it. And he became a priest to feed the family. And as soon as Donovan was appointed by President Reagan as his Secretary of Labor, he started doing a lot of things he was unknown to the Reagan presidency. He was a member of the mafia, mafia Genovese crime family. He tried to bust the unions. He provided children 50 cents an hour salary, wages an hour. Now it is $25 an hour. Even if you work in a restaurant, you have to get minimum 25. At that time, 50 cents an hour. Encouraged child labor. He did a lot of things. There is a lot of stuff in the C-SPAN. I did all the research recently. I came to know all these things. Eventually, Donovan was forced to leave his job, first Secretary of Labor in the United States history. He was indicted for, I believe, 139 for cheating the MTA, Metropolitan Transit Authority. There's a lot of stuff. You can read it. He was indicted, and President Reagan, feeling support for Reagan's election fund, $600,000, I believe, he got a special prosecutor to let him off the hook. Okay, so all in the history. C-SPAN, watch it. The confirmation hearing of Donovan. And I also read about 101 pages of the FBI report for and against. A lot of people wanted to speak for him. A lot of people wanted to speak against him. So that's the background. Now, this company, AT&T, deployed another tactics. You have to understand, everything is a fraud tactics. They hired a law firm by the name Norton Rose Fulbright and Jaworski LLP, New York. The chairman of that law firm was a partner of the firm, and he is also a prominent member of the political party. So what Mr. The guy's name is Curtis Dawson, Ralph Curtis Dawson, the black guy. He hired a newly licensed lawyer by the name Brian Wayne Tilker. Brian Tilker was told to file a false affidavit. So Tilker submitted a false affidavit testifying that I quit the job, and he has personal knowledge about it. And the case was assigned to a judge by the name Giovanna Seibert of the Eastern District of New York. So all a scheme. They are all players. You want to fix the judge, you can fix it as it is happening now in the President Trump's trial. As we all watch, those who watch CNN, you know what's going on in Washington. The President Trump was being tried for allegedly giving a prostitute money. That's the issue. That has gone through long ago. They are bringing it. It's a political lynching. Okay, this is what I call political lynching of the president, President Trump. Although I am a registered Democrat, I never voted for Democrats because the more I knew, I don't trust them. Okay, so what this guy did was, the Brian Wayne Tilker, she submitted an affidavit before the judge Giovanna Seibert. She had no authority whatsoever to order the Orlando and Tampa court to send their papers to her. She is not an appellate court. She is a judge of co-equal powers. She has no authority to tell the Orlando and Tampa court to send their papers. She did it. And the courts were afraid because the Democrats were in power. So they meekly complied, and based on Tilker's affidavit, sworn affidavit, this judge, Giovanna Seibert, granted a 19-page order telling a story to which she had absolutely no knowledge. Okay. Now, when I researched, Tilker was born on May 6, 1979 in New York. Tilker. Tilker is a lawyer now. So, if I signed a release on August 25, 1981, Tilker was only 2 years old and he was living in New York. You understand? A guy living in New York, 2 years old, testifying, and this threat, Seibert, pardon my expression, I have nothing else, a woman rendering a decision based on politics. And when I asked the judge in a motion to vacate her order, she refused. I told her, Tilker being 2 years old, living in New York, cannot testify what happened in Detroit, Michigan, which is 700, 800 miles away from New York. How can a 2-year-old child testify, and on the basis of it, she grants a summary judgment? The Supreme Court had held in a trilogy of cases, that means 3 separate cases held in the year, that when there are triable issues of material facts exist in a case, no summary judgment can be granted. The Orlando judge had held there is a triable issue of material facts. So you can't throw the case based on paperwork. You understand? So this woman, when I told her Tilker was only 2 years old, his testimony was false, he's a liar, he's a pathological liar, she justified Tilker doing so by saying and quoting another district judge. Another district judge is not a superior court to go by what he said. So you have to understand. So Tilker, whom I reported to the district council, the district attorney's office, they moved the court, the appeal division of the Supreme Court of New York, to transfer the case to another district, because they said Dawson, being a member of the very disciplinary committee of the bar, they cannot conduct an investigation against him because he's a member. So the case was transferred to Brooklyn. I have no clue how they disposed of. I tried to Google it. There is no decision rendered by there is no ruling, no holding what the disciplinary committee of Brooklyn did it. Then there is another mystery. This judge's decision, Giovanna Seibert's decision in case number 06, I will quote that case. She refused to her order. I appealed to the Second Circuit. Second Circuit refused to issue an order. How can a Second Circuit refuse to recall the order which is illegally obtained? In the meantime, Tilker fled to Hawaii. He set up an office there. He managed through fraud, became a licensed attorney to practice before the Supreme Court of the United States. Nobody has taken him. I am sure the authorities will take him to task, get him disrobed. He cannot be practicing a lawyer who done everything through fraud. Now the investigation is still going on against Dawson and Tilker possibly. I don't know. I have records. Now you have to understand, The Supreme Court of the United States granted me permission to file a writ of mandamus in re Talakkottur case number 16-9624. Now, those who are interested, those who are law students, those who are brilliant, they should know what the Supreme Court's order. There were two places you can check it up. You can check it, the reporter's decision, and also page 32, which says the motion for granting is granted by the Supreme Court. But the clerk of the Supreme Court will not accept it. It was sent, I submitted $300 fee for filing and spent nearly 2 lakhs of Indian rupees to mail it, to print 40 sets of brief this high. Which won't fit into one box, so I had to send it in 2 separate boxes. You have to show them before we pack it. We packed it, sent it, cost me 2 lakhs of rupees, Indian rupees. And when it reached the Supreme Court, a law clerk by the name Melissa Blarrock, she looked at the wrong case, case number 15-9100. That was not the case upon which the Supreme Court granted me permission to file a writ of mandamus. She returned everything back to me to India in 4 boxes. You have to understand, including my $300 check, bank draft, not check, bank draft you will see, and she returned all the brief back. Then when I got it, I tried to call this woman, she won't answer the phone. Her message stated in her voice recording that leave a message. She never returned the call. I had then a toll-free number from USA to India and vice versa, which a company called Vonage, which I discontinued later on. So I sent these papers to Chief Justice Roberts, John G. Roberts, requesting him, along with the check actually, requesting him to direct the clerk of the court to do it, to accept it, number it, and when Justice Roberts sent it to another clerk by the name Jeffrey Adkins, he won't take it. He returned that 3 times, articulating his reasons, saying that he started acting as counsel for the defendant. The role of the clerk of the court is purely ministerial, to carry out the court's order, not to question its wisdom. You understand? So the name went on. Then they would take it. None of the clerks will take the case. Then I moved to the disciplinary committee of the Bar Council to take action against Mr. Tilker and the Chief Clerk Scott Harris. They're trying to whitewash. They won't submit my papers to the chief prosecutor. It went to a lower level woman by the name Becky Neal. I'm forgetting the names, I can't remember everything by heart. And she refused, saying that the Scott Harris has done his job and he is required to reject petition. That is not the Supreme Court's order. They asked her reconsideration, she denied that. Then I was forced to take them all to the Columbia Circuit. It went through a total of more than 100 judges. You will see the list of judges involved in this case, never in the history, except that of President Trump, gone to more than 100 judges. It's a history. So there's a major fraud. I notified the FBI second time. They're keeping quiet this time. I notified the Inspector General, Department of Justice. They got the papers. Last week I tried to call them, and every time you call, either the line is cut off or having other problems. So there is a major cover-up. This sector corporation owed me 43 years of my pension, for which I had contributed as an employee, both as a non-management and a management employee. I went to Atlanta, Georgia, and I met the Department of Labor, and they gave me a printout. That printout is here. What has happened is they are showing that I'm going to show you close up. I have paid into the system from 1974, 75, 76, 77, and the amount of money earned and the contributions, but they are showing a different employer. I don't know how they did it, and my name is shown as T space R space David, date of birth correct, they blacked it, and sex male, and AKTALAKK. That's how it is shown. Okay, it shows that I paid the money. Then I wrote you can't go into the IRS website. I finally managed, after getting clearance through the IDEA. IDEA cleared me after several attempts, 3 of my staff helping me. We cleared it. So IDEA identified who I am, where I am, everything. Now the problem is the employer will never admit I paid into the system. I spoke to them, and one of the women working for AT&T finally admitted, yeah, we found the records, and she sent me some papers, and they gave me a work number. I called them this morning. That is on the 15th around local time 3 in the morning. So they said, we can't find your record. Why my record alone is disappearing? Why my employment records disappear? Why my pension is missing? Somebody goofed. The unscrupulous people, some of them are scrupulous, they have made a very mess. And the US Department of Justice is supposed to investigate when there is a fraud and corruption. I haven't got a response yet. They checked the mail. They got my complaint, this stick with 54 appendices, which will clearly demonstrate what happened. Those who wanted to make this a movie, come to me. We will discuss, we will show you every bit of it. I'm not lying. I'm an old man, I can die any time, but my history should be in the history books. I'm not a Mahatma Gandhi, but I'm fighting for everybody's rights to work in a place free from discrimination, free from gender discrimination, free from age discrimination, handicap. These are laws passed by the Congress. Every law written on the books were violated, every bit of it. That is why I'm so mad. Guys, you have my email address, which will show you, and with my phone number, my full details. Those who want to contact me, I am here. Doesn't matter where you are, how the funds come. This can be a thriller movie if people understand what I am speaking is truth. Okay? So I want to wish all my American friends and friends all over the world to understand, share it, so that let the world understand what is the game going on here. The government is incompetent under President Biden. He is a warmonger president, funding the enemies, funding to kill the Arabs, the Palestinians, the people in Ukraine. He was there, his son was there. They installed his son to a position. Mayor Giuliani had gone and investigated. Everything is in black and white. So Biden, to whom I wrote 2 letters, never had the courtesy even to respond to my letters, because they know the Democrats were playing games, foul play, which is depriving me my rights, right to liberty and property without the due process of the laws. Hope, guys, you will listen, you will tell in the election which is coming to take place in November. Election technically is over, because once you select the representatives, the representative vote for the president. So do whatever you want. I have nothing to grind. Okay, I was no person. I wasn't a registered Democrat. Okay, so please, I beg of you, you are my jurors. You understand the facts. Whether this mafia corporation resorted to tactics, how they won technically in the courts below, not at the Supreme Court. And when the clerk and the various clerks employed by them challenge the will of the Supreme Court, that is a contumacious conduct that called for serious action. I'm sure the US Supreme Court will set up a machinery to ensure that they have access to the courts, not the clerk returning the papers back and forth. Okay, that means the clerks are doing something contrary to the will of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of the United States must necessarily set up a machinery to ensure that people can complain to them what is happening here. Otherwise, court's orders will go and they will murder people one after the other. One of the judges at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals was found dead. I'm sure nobody knows how a sitting federal judge, Clarence Allgood, was found dead in his bedroom. I'm sure he may have been murdered because he disagreed. Okay, there were too many murders. My counsel was murdered, another judge was murdered, and the Robert Vance was murdered. The murderer was killed by giving him lethal injection. Lot of story. I can write for days. Although my memory is a little bit going little down because my computer is not working sometimes full speed. Okay, so I want your support. The people of America and all civilized world in the whole world should listen to me in my cry for justice. Thank you. Bye-bye.